John Hinckley Jr. pulled the trigger on March 30th, 1981 in an attempt to assassinate President Ronald Reagan, a huge gain was up ahead for gun control advocates. This led to Edward Fagan introducing the Brady Bill in the House in the 102nd Congress in 1991. The bill was referred to the Judiciary Committee and was passed in the House. In the Senate, the bill was attached to an amendment to an anti-crime bill called the Omnibus Crime Bill. The bill made it to the Conference Committee where it passed in the House. The Senate was unable to invoke cloture. In the 103rd Congress, the Brady Bill was introduced by Schumer as a separate bill as opposed to an omnibus bill.
To sway the votes necessary to invoke cloture in the Senate, the substance and provisions of the Brady Bill had to be slightly moderated. Here you can see where provisions of the bill were altered to address filibustering Republicans' concerns of a long waiting period and not having a set phase-out period. The waiting period was shortened from 7 to 5 days, and the phase-out period was set at 5 years instead of being contingent on the instant background check system. The final push needed to invoke cloture came from a compromise agreeing to vote on Bob Dole's proposal, which included a 4-year sunset period and set standards to replace the waiting period with an instant background check system, to be voted on early in the next session.
The president changed between the 102nd and 103rd Congress. The composition of the House and Senate, however, did not. This, combined with public sentiment for gun control reaching an all-time high, led to the gridlock zone shifting to the left. A problem with this model is that we cannot pinpoint exactly where the final bill falls on the ideology scale. We have to assume it fell somewhere between 0.22 and 0.74 for it to have moved out of the gridlock zone.
The punctuated equilibrium model argues that long-term equilibrium is interrupted by big changes in which the public is involved in an issue. Calls for the kind of increased gun control restrictions that the Brady Bill provided did not occur until after the shooting of James Brady. The Brady Bill was the first piece of gun control legislation since the Gun Control Act of 1968, which was a response to the high-profile equilibrium interrupting assassinations of the 1960s. The shooting of James Brady allowed the Brady Bill to persevere from its introduction in 1987 to its passage in 1993. However, some would argue that the use of this model as the change in gun control policy was not significant enough to be a punctuated change.
Alternative way to understanding the Brady Bill than a rationalist approach would be what Charles Lindblom posits in the incrementalist model. And that would show that really there wasn't much change that happened at all. The shooting that took place that the Brady Bill takes its name after was 12 years earlier than 1993 when it actually passed. And it would find that senators like Bob Dole really dissatisfies with the other senators versus actually making a systematic approach to cutting the bill or changing the bill. And so one of the downfalls of this theory is that it's not really that intellectual and it doesn't have a rationalistic or systematic understanding that we can point to, but anyway, that's like this art piece behind me.
It is clear that the change of the president and public sentiment for gun control being at an all-time high affected the Brady Bill's successful passage in the 103rd Congress. But as you can tell, there are arguments for and against each model explaining the bill's change of fate from one Congress to the next. The reverse of executive roles, plus compromising on the wording of amendments, fully demonstrates what Professor Therio has been teaching us the entire semester. Party polarization is what will begin and end a bill.